Good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome you out to RCC, and we are here to watch a game between Santiago Canyon College and the Riverside City College Tigers today. And I was fortunate enough to get as my guest Miss Lisa Camarco, who's the head coach of Santiago Canyon, and she was nice enough to take a few minutes before the game to have a chat with us. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be out and chatting with you today before we get going.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, we've had this in the making for a while. You know, we tried to get a sit down earlier, but then with schedules and the shutdown, everything kind of changed a little bit. So this is actually our first on-site remote. So this was actually the idea for the podcast, and Coach was nice enough to give us a couple minutes before. So just real quick, can you give us a little background about how you got to be the head coach here? A little bit about your past history, playing, etc.
Yeah, so I played at Point Loma Nazarene University down in San Diego, and I had just an amazing 4-year experience. And I think, you know, sometimes you hear about great college playing experiences, and then you hear, you know, some not so great ones. And so when I got ready to graduate, I loved softball, and I didn't necessarily feel like I was ready to walk away from the game. And I don't ever feel like I grew up thinking that I was going to be a coach. But as I started to get closer to graduation, I realized that sitting in an office, that type of, it wasn't for me, and that my place was on the field. So I was fortunate enough to get an assistant position down at San Diego City College under Leanne Taylor, and got to learn from her. And I fell in love with coaching, and I fell in love really with the JC level of coaching, the community college experience and the athletes that we get to work with. And so I kind of knew at that point that that was really the path that I wanted to go. And so I saw this position at Santiago Canyon open up, and it was a brand new program. You know, newer school, starting a program for the first time. So, you know, threw my name in the hat, and obviously here I am 16 years later, and it's been a pretty incredible journey because, you know, for a lot of coaches, it's a pipe dream to come in to start a brand new program. You know, you're not coming over and taking over either somebody else's dynasty or trying to fix somebody else's mess. You are creating it from its infancy, right? And so that was something that I think is really unique, and then getting to design and build a complex on top of that and just create the entire culture of this program from the ground up. So like I said, this is my 16th year here, and it's been a journey. I mean, you know, from a program that doesn't exist in one of the toughest conferences in the country for community college softball, and, you know, taking it to one of the top programs. Yeah.
Well, and since you mentioned that, for those of you that haven't been out there, that is a gorgeous campus. The location where you are is right in the middle of Orange County, Riverside County. You're centrally located. And it's one of those campuses where if you really get an opportunity to teach or coach there, it's really hard to leave.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and one of the things that you had mentioned too, being there 16 years is an accomplishment, because there's a lot of coaches, as you know, it's a kind of a transient position. If you want to move up, sometimes you have to move.
Yeah. They, in fact, I was talking to a coach the other day that told me a statistic that the average community coach survives 2 seasons, 2 years. They're at the JC level. So, you know, 16 years. And I think that's pretty unique to our conference too, because I feel like a lot of the coaches that we have in our conference have been around for a long time. You know?
But from a family standpoint, if you find a place, it's very unique for a coach to find some place that they enjoy, they have as much input as you did, or the opportunity to create a program from the beginning and not have to worry about constantly moving or changing for your kids. You know, and that's what's tough about the position. Yeah,
from a family dynamic, I get asked a lot if I, plan to move on, and that's one of the, I love the JC level for a lot of reasons, but I think just that stability for my family too, that I'm not moving my kids every few years, that we can kind of build roots in one community.
Well, and as you know, there's a difference between coaching at the community college level or the four-year university. It's a different type of student, and your input into their future is a little bit different too.
We were kind of talking about COVID earlier, right? And some of the things with COVID that maybe we took for granted before that, we really miss and appreciate now. And I think that is a huge part of it. Like, to be a part of these kids' lives in kind of an intimate way, right? So we're used to rolling into the weight room at 6 a.m. and if they've been up all night because this happened in their family or, whatnot, we can easily identify that and be a part of that, right? Versus sitting on Zoom when you're on a screen, right? You can't read what's going on in somebody's life when they're on a little square on, on a Zoom screen. And so I think that was one of the biggest pieces that we were missing when we were remote, is just not being able to do life with these kids and help them through that daily life grind. And so honestly, that's the biggest thing I miss.
Yeah. So now that you had some experience for the last, I don't know how many months you were doing it, do you find yourself doing more of your recruiting through Zoom, or have you kind of gone back on the road with that?
Not through Zoom necessarily, but before, where I just never used any of the recruiting apps or online services, right? Like I was just there in person at everything. I do feel like I had to, right, when we had a ban on face-to-face recruiting, rely on the video side of it. So, the different recruiting apps and services where at least we could go and identify video and then, Zoom with kids when we weren't allowed to meet them face-to-face. So I definitely am still utilizing those, it's just another tool, right, in your arsenal to be able to access those that I just wasn't even really doing before. So now kind of to blend the two, right? I can be back in person and sitting at games and talking with families, but I also have that in my pocket that's probably made me a little better recruiter. Yeah. And I think it's something that, even talking to other college coaches, it's recruiting continues to get harder and harder. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you might agree with me this way, but it's probably nothing like sitting at a game and being able to talk to that person face to face and talk to the family, and you get an entirely different view of that person in front of them as you do on screen. Almost more of a, you don't really get to know the real person on screen.
No, you can't replace that. You certainly can't replace that.
So as of right now, going through the rest of the season, what are you looking at, or what do you see going? Do you have any students or any players that you want to talk about? Anybody that's having an outstanding season?
Yeah.
I follow some of the posts, but
you know what? What's been a positive side of COVID for us is getting to have some of these kids for 3 years. Yeah. So we do have kind of a core group of kids that started with us in 2020 as freshmen, and I think just watching their growth over a 3-year period. I mean, usually the only time we get an athlete for 3 years is if there's a catastrophic injury, right? And so that's rare that it's a blown out ACL and they redshirt and then they come back the next year. But to have this many kids that were all together that started out with us, I think that's been kind of fun, because you get to see not only just the relationship you build with them over 3 years, but just their growth as an athlete over 3 years and how far they've come. But the other conversation we were just having is it's so interesting because those kids, even though they've been with us for 3 years and they're so talented and they, we feel like they have so much experience, they have never experienced a full college season till now, and they've never played in a playoff game. Yeah. Oh, right. Wow. And that's not necessarily unique to us, right? There's a lot of programs out there, but these kids who have been in college, they've never played a full college season, and coming from high school, they're not used to playing this many games, and for them to kind of be able to like wrap their mind around big picture, what are we shooting for, and yet not having anybody on a roster who has actually experienced a playoff game and going deep into the playoffs, right? Normally you're kind of like half your team has done it and half hasn't. Sure. And now with COVID, because we were shut down that March, right? We were winning the conference, we were on a roll, and then we get shut down. And then last year we played a modified 28 game season, so it was very much more like a high school season in terms of the amount of games played. So this is the first year that they're having to really figure out that grind, and it's been fun and challenging to see them figure that out for the first time as an entire group. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say that would probably be fun for you as a coaching staff, because the excitement that they have is going to translate to you, to where sometimes when you do it all the time, you don't really get the same feel of it.
Yeah, it's a different appreciation.
Yeah. So actually lastly, and I'll let you go, we started a softball program. We've had softball training, but we actually have been pushing to get a 10U program going and start building from there. Yeah. We've been fortunate. We have a really good group of young ladies that all wanted to kind of work together. So is there anything you could give them advice, a little bit of advice to 10-year-olds working up and maybe transitioning from rec summer ball or spring ball into the travel kind of realm? I know that's a big jump, but anything you could give them that we could pass along?
Gosh, honestly, the biggest thing is to just make it fun. I think, unfortunately, I see so many, girls kind of take that mindset of like, oh, I have to do this. I have to. And, they forget that they get to. They don't have to, they get to.
Sure.
And finding just that fun, right? Like, you can take something really mundane, and if you bring a passion and an energy and an excitement, it makes that mundane thing really fun, right? And so if those girls can kind of just like take that mindset and appreciate it and, bring a lot of energy to it, they're going to look forward to it and have a different appreciation with the I get to rather than I have to. Right. So, I mean, especially for those little ones, there's and I see it with my kids, yes, we want to build skill and, develop and all these things, but if they're not having fun doing it, they're not going to want to come back the next day, right? Sure. And so the biggest thing I feel like with the young ones is we have to make it really fun. Like our game, there's naturally a lot of standing around. And so if we can find a way to like keep people moving and make it really fun, those kids are going to want to continue to come back and work hard and then strive to, go the travel ball route and, find that love for the game.
Yeah. And there's not a very big gap between that. It's just the dedication and time you put in.
Exactly.
So we're trying to find that for them right now.
Yeah.
But again, I appreciate your time. I want to let you get back to work. I thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Best of luck today. And actually, what I would like to do is maybe have the girls out when you have your camp. That would be great to have our whole group up there. Yeah, I'd love for them to go see the campus and to have them go through something different.
Great.
Or if you ever have time when you come down, I'll have you just meet in front of the girls and just give them a few words.
Absolutely.
That would be great. Because this is something that they can look up to and aspire to.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, thank you again.
Thanks.
And good luck today.
All right,
thanks,
you.
Coach.
Yeah.
All right, so that was our first installment of our on-site location E29 podcast. So again, I want to thank my guest, Coach Lisa Camarco from Santiago Canyon, and we will see you next time. Thanks.